Hello and welcome to the fourth in my series on programming, and we're on a second stage of looking at my work as I've gone through creating a macro from scratch. If you haven't already seen the first part of this, in other words the third of the programming series, then you need to watch that first because much of this won't make sense probably. Right, okay, so let's look at what we've done so far and how far we've got. We've analysed the problem, and the problem is that we've got numbers that are written as text, and we want to be able to convert them into actual figures. So if we've got 116, we want to be able to run a macro and it'll convert it like that. Okay, that's the goal. So we start off by looking at all these words and making a list of them all, and we put those at the beginning of the macro in sets, sort of 1 to 10 and then 10 to 100, and then all the teens, and then a few extra bits and pieces that go to make up a number, the different words. So hyphen is a word, and so is a and an, which might be part of, well, a is, but not an, sorry. Alright, okay. What have we done so far? We have got as far as this effectively. Oh, there was my 116 that I played with just now. Let's just get rid of that so it doesn't confuse us. Right, so we have got as far as creating an array of numbers where the numbers represent the positions of these words in this list, and that has significance in that 1 to 10 is, the numbers 1 to 10, and then 10 to 20 will be 11 to 10, 11 to 20, so those will have a significance again. So let's just see what that looks like if we look at a number like 342 and run this macro. Then what it does is it picks up all those words. It says we've got 6 words altogether because the hyphen is a word, and then it goes through them all. Those are the words, and then these are the equivalent numbers in the list of words. So if we want to make up the number 342 from this, then 3 is okay, but we want the second word is 100, so we know that if we've got 100 as the second word, then we want 3 times 100, which is the 300, and then we've got the and, then we've got the 40, we know what that means, so the 14 there has to be converted to 40, so in other words it's 14 minus 10 to give us 4, and then multiply by 10 to give us 40, and then we've got 2 to tack on the end. So we have to do a series of equations, but that's only for a 6 word number. That number is made up of 6 words. There's a word there that's only there's a number that's only 1 word. This one here is 4 words, so they're different, and also we're going to look at this later perhaps, the American version 342 is 5 words, and so we need to work out what's going on in terms of how many numbers we've got, how many words we've got to make up the number. So let's try the next stage we got to was to use select case. So in other words, it says here select case, we've got it on here, select case num words. So num words was the number of words. If there's only 1 word, then we do this lot. If there's 2 words, we do that lot, and so on through, and then you get end select. So that's the last. If it doesn't fit in with any of those, something's gone wrong. So we do a beep and we exit the macro just to tell the user that they've done something funny, or at least the macro may have done something funny. So for each of these, we work out what we're doing. So if the number is well, no, I won't go through these in detail because you can look at that and sort of work them out. So if these would be if the number is greater than 10, then you've got 10 times, so that was the 14 if you remember. 14 take away 10 gives us 4. 4 times 10 gives us that. So it's if there's only one word, then it could be the number 1 or it could be the number 40. So we need to be able to account for each of those possibilities of what that word might be. And yeah, I think that's about all we need to do on that one. Okay, so that gives us so if we, I wonder if we can try that. So if we go to the next one, which has got the numbers, and at the end there I've debugged the result, but I put it into the immediate window, but I've also done a message box for it. So if the cursor is sitting, for example, on where are we, 100 and whatever, so we try that one, make that a bit smaller, 100 and, try that macro. It says 116, which looks hopeful. Okay, so it's done the calculations and it's got the 116, which is good. Right, so what's the next stage? So having got that number, we then need to type it into the text in place of the words. So the first thing we have to do at the beginning here is set up a range so that it covers all of the words that make up our number. So we've got number of words -9. I've no idea why it's -9. I'm sure there's some reason for that. Move the end word. Yes, okay. Oh, and if there's a space after the final word, we use cset. I can't remember whether we've dealt with that or not, but it's in the programming book. Cset means that you can move the end of the range backwards, as it says, word backwards, if the text is a space. So in other words, it pulls back from the space to the actual word, and then it selects that bit of text, the number. Then excuse me, at the end of the macro, then the range is there and we delete it, and in place of it we type in the actual number. So str means turn the number, which was my result, turn it into a string, but if you do that you also have a space provided, and so we use trim to take the space off, so all we've got then is the actual number, which then can be typed in place of the words. Right, next stage is this one. So that's fine in that it will convert the numbers as we request, provided we place the cursor at the beginning of the first word. So macros being what they are, they can do things to make life easier for you. So it would be much better if we were able to place the cursor at the beginning, or well, somewhere before the word, the text-based word, so that it would then move along the line and find a word. So we're going to do that in this macro here. There's the first bit. We're going to use a do while. So we're looking for the start of the word. Just let me get something. I've just popped some text in here so that we can actually talk about it more easily. So what we want to be able to do is put the cursor somewhere here and get the macro to go along, look along the line here until it finds something that belongs to a number, a text-based number. And when it finds it, then okay, it can look and find what should be included and any other words that shouldn't be included, so that you just end up with that particular thing. Then again here you look along the line until you find the word one, and then you've got to look along until you find the next word, which got chopped off, which is G, which is not in the as part of the should not be included as part of the word. So you pull back to there. Now, what I've done is to use do while, but I am a little wary of it, as I'll explain later. But for the moment, let's run with it. Okay, so we start from, say, Hill or somewhere, and we say, okay, we have not found the start yet. So I've said got start is false, and then we start the loop. So the loop runs from there to there. So while got start is equal to false, then keep going. So when we find the right thing, which is in the middle here, we're going to say got start equals where are we? Got start equals true. And then when we get to the end, if we've said that, get to the end of the loop there, it won't go back and do it again, because that says do it again while got start is false. So it will drop down to the next one. Then the next one is then looking for the end. It looks to find something that is not included in the list of words. So I think that's reasonably straightforward. If you remember, the strings here have all got colons in them. So what we're looking for within that string of numbers, my great long list of numbers, find a colon, then the word that we've found at the start of our range, and then another colon. So if that is a word that is included in the list, then we have got a number word, and so got start is true. Seem to have got start twice there, but never mind. And we move the start by one word to the right. Okay, and then so we find a word there, and this one we find something which is not included. So if the word that we find is not included in the list, then got end is true. We've dropped off the end, and if we've dropped off the end, this time we need to go back by a word. We've gone one word too far because we've found a word that's not included, so we need to pull back on that. Okay, so that's how we find the next range of words that have got to be converted, and we're at the beginning of that range, so we can use the same code as we did before. We know how many words there are because it's the number of words is the number of words. It's the count of the range. The range has so many words in it, such and such number of words, and then we can use the code we've already done to generate all of the numbers, and then again type that in. Okay, so here's the next stage. I just realized that I've actually anticipated that. The previous version of the macro was one where you put the cursor somewhere in the word, and it goes backwards to try to find the beginning of the word, and then it goes forwards to try to find the end of the word. This next version says, well, I want to be able to start anywhere and find a word, keep going to the right until you find a word that is included in. So again, we move the range one word to the right, we increase it by one, and if we found a word, this word, that is included, in other words, in string comes greater than naught, in other words, this word is included in the range of numbers, then we have found the start of a number word. Having found the start of it, then we can go through the same process as we did before, working our way through to find the end of it. Once we've found the beginning and the end of the word, then we can interpret it and type the result as we did before. But I learnt a lesson when doing this. Do while is actually a dangerous there we go. It's a bit of a dangerous construction to use, because if you get your condition wrong, it'll go on looking and looking and looking and looking. It'll keep going, and what tends to happen, or can happen, is that the VBA goes into a loop and locks out, and you can't get out of the loop. So while I was developing it, it happened to me, and of course, needless to say, I hadn't saved the current version of the normal template. So my advice is, if you are doing do while loops, then before you try running it, do a Control S in VBA, and that will save your macros in the normal template, and you won't lose them. And also another hint is to put a do events command inside the loop somewhere. Okay, it slows it down, but it means that there's more of a chance that if you start running and realize you're in a loop, then if you press the stop button, the reset button on VBA, which is up here, you know, this square block here, then if it's really locked with no do events, clicking on that won't make any difference, and you'll just have to you know, let Word crash and then restart. But if you've got a do events in the loop, then there's a chance that clicking that it'll recognize you're clicking that and therefore stop the macro. So that's where we're up to. I think that's just about it. Let's have a look at the final thing before we finish. Alright, so let's look at it actually working. So if I say there, and I run the macro with the keystroke here, it goes along the line and generates an error. Sorry about that, I made a programming error earlier. Okay, so we're going to run through using the new macro. So we run it once and we get 3, run it again, we get 40, 16, 342, 142, and then it goes along and finds 100 and 116 and 300. Now the next one was originally an error because 42 hasn't got a hyphen, but I thought, well, you know, why should I beep and tell the user there's an error? We can it obviously means 42, so why don't we get it so that 42 with a space rather than a hyphen still gives the right number, 79. Then we've got the American 342 without the word and, which I've also accounted for. Then 206, okay, 216, 240, and then again it was another stage I had to go to for a 3-word number. I had to get 402. I had to make sure that that worked okay. So let's look at the final version of it and see if there's anything in here we can learn. Yes, now if you remember, I said that I'm uneasy about for-next loops, especially when you're starting in the middle of some text somewhere and trying to find a word. Suppose there aren't any of the words you're looking for, it can, as I say, it can sort of go churning through the document trying to find the right word. I mean, suppose you accidentally press the keystroke for this macro when you didn't mean to, and there aren't any words, so it will, you know, get itself stuck. So I thought it was safer to say, well, okay, let's use a for-next loop and check a certain number of words to see if there is a set of text-based numbers there, and if not, beep at the user. So if we were to try looking for a number in here, it does a double beep to say, well, I couldn't find anything, and you can see it's ended up down here. If I start there and do it again, it gets down to here. Oh, it's found ONE. So if I undo that, yes, it found 1. So if I try again from there, can't find any in that bit, can't find any there. So I thought it was, and it found the word 100 there, so it's actually converted that. So that, I thought that was a safer way of doing it. So what does that look like? Well, what I say is I've chosen 50 words as a you know, an idea. So look for the words that are in our list using this where is it, the in string, all numbers and this word, but I've also got this idea here which is saying, well, if the first word is a or and or whatever, then that might not be what you want. So because it could be that it could be a 242 yard dash. So the A is not part of the number if the A is at the beginning. It only works if it's a 100, so that has to be accounted for as well. So when you try testing these macros, you find different things and it trips over something, so you've got to add in conditions to deal with these extra little bits that it's tripped over. And here's my little bit that does a beep, then it waits 0.2 of a second, and then it beeps again, so I get a double beep rather than a single beep. The single beep is what it generates if it can't make sense of the text words that it's found, the text number that it's found. So here's the bit where I'm trying to say, well, is a, an or and the final word? Because again, it could be 462 and then he said something else, you know. So the word and could occur at the end of a text-based word, which isn't relevant. So, and then this one here, if it's a 100, we're all right, but otherwise, skip the a. Yeah, so there's various things there. Calculation is the same. Oh, can't remember if we mentioned this one. This is if it's a letter A, then it means 1, the number 1. 100 is the same as 100. That's all the numbers. Yep, that's it. So I hope you've been able to learn something from those ramblings, and we'll finish there. Thanks for watching.